Our guest today on Caribbeana is Mr. David Nakhid. David is a senator, a newly appointed senator of the Trinidad and Tobago government, the newly elected government of Trinidad and Tobago. And he's been a sportsman, a great part of his life. I'll let him tell you all about that. Welcome to our program, David.
Thanks
Yes,
very much, Vaughn.
yes,
Nice
yes.
to be here.
Right. Thank you very much. Well, listen, tell us a bit about yourself. We used to hear David Nakhid on the radio and the ball and so on. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I went to Rosary Boys RC in Port of Spain.
Right.
Then I passed to St. Mary's High School, St. Mary's College. I played football at St. Mary's College, part of a very successful team,
Yes.
and then graduated in 1982. I received a scholarship to the American University in Washington, D.C., where I played for 4 years,
Oh,
became captain of the team, MVP for 2 years, and I made quite a lot of regional teams,
right.
honors. I got a lot of honors. And of
Right.
course, as people know, in 1985, we went to the championship game against UCLA
Right. Right.
in the longest recorded game in football history. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then I left Washington, D.C. and went to play for close to 13 years in professional soccer. I played 8 years in Europe at the highest level, first
Right.
division,
Right.
Belgium. I played in Belgium, I played in Greece. Um, I played in Switzerland, of course,
Yeah.
my first team. I played in the European Cup, I was the first Trinbagonian actually to play in Europe at the highest level at first division. And then
Right.
also the first Trinbagonian to play in the European Cup.
Yeah.
And I had a very good career there. And then at the end of my career, I finished playing in the Middle East. I played in Lebanon, where I eventually stayed. And I opened an academy, which I've run and been director of for the last 20 years
Wow.
almost.
Right. And this is in Trinidad. The academy's in Trinidad.
No, the academy is in Lebanon.
Oh, right.
I
Right.
only moved back to Lebanon, to Trinidad 5 years ago.
Oh, I see. I see.
I left Trinidad at 17 and came back 5 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're glad to have you back. Well, you talked about some places that I'm very familiar with. American University. I used to work there at American University in their computer center. And um,
Okay.
and I knew a lot of fellows, again, people like Lincoln Phillips and Victor Gamaldo, and we were all in the army together. So I don't know how we have never crossed, but nevertheless, it's a good life that you have lived, and you are now a senator of the Trinidad and Tobago government. How does that feel?
Well, I became an opposition senator 5 years ago. Um, and we really did some hard work in the last 5 years
Yeah,
in order for us to have a chance to be in government.
right, right.
Now I've been reappointed as part of a government center
Yeah,
senator,
yeah,
and it's rewarding in that you have an opportunity through your political appointment to help people,
right,
and it's
right.
something that I've always been interested in, and it's always been a part of my life to try and
Yes.
uplift the people as much as I can.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Well, with the situation that Trinidad has, and perhaps some of the Caribbean islands, with the youth, the young boys and girls, and so on, it must be a challenging thought to be able to help them cope with their situations by using sports. Is that on your mind?
But that's paramount on my mind. I mean, the whole point of being part of this ministry, which is the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs, is to use sport as a vehicle to drive youth development. And I think we are primarily placed in Trinidad and Tobago given our deep and rich legacy of having producing outstanding student athletes over the years.
Yeah,
You mentioned Lincoln Phillips, Victor Gamaldo, Ian Bain, Alvin
yeah,
Henderson,
yeah,
all of these people who came before myself and who were heroes of mine, who I knew personally in Washington, D.C.
right.
So, yes, I look forward to having the chance to use sport as a vehicle to drive youth development throughout the country. As you know, the youth, they have changed so drastically with the advent of social media and
Yes,
digitalization. So we have to find new ways, new avenues in order to maintain Shakti and discipline in their lives. Else, without Shakti and discipline, there's going to
right,
be chaos.
right. Well, with your expertise, I'm sure
Comment.
you'll be able to make an impact on this particular situation and changing people's lives, the youths especially, through these lives. Being an opposition senator, does the government have the new government have a plan of action to cope with that?
Well, I'm now a government senator. I used to be an opposition senator.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, that's what I mean.
So,
Yeah.
yes, no, yes, we do have a plan of action. As a matter of fact, we have just put together a 100-day plan um, for implementation. And we also have a long-term national policy that we intend to start rolling out very soon after the next budget is called, so that we can really have a meaningful national policy that when it comes to sport and youth.
Yeah.
I think the people are gonna be happy with how we have changed things and how we look in new ways to engage our young people from the primary school level, because there's so many facets to that. You
Yes.
know, it involves cultural change, it involves a whole dietary change. And, when you talk about youth development, it's not only sport that you're talking about or youth affairs, you're talking
Right.
about the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health. There
Yeah.
has to be a synergy with all of these ministries in order to really engage our young people and bring them to a level of international and regional stature that
Right.
they can compete in any sphere. And
Right. Right.
that is our purpose.
Right. I would imagine you would see the current soccer team changing very soon because they're a group that attracts a lot of attention by its nationals outside. And so we want to see them do well. So I know that's one of your mandates to make that happen.
Well, our mandate is to give them as much support as we can, because we know, as you have said, one of the entities, national entities that our people abroad and at home look forward to is our national football and cricket teams. And now what we have before us is the World Cup qualifications.
Right.
And we are prepared as a government, from our Prime Minister to our Minister of Sport, we are prepared to lend as much support as we can to the national team and the national coaching staff in order to make sure that we get proper representation and end up in the World Cup
Right,
next year.
right. Yeah, we gotta get back there, man. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, being a young senator and being under the tutelage of a master politician like the prime minister, um, how does that feel? I mean, does she know you personally? And I mean, how, or were you just picked by a committee? How does that feel?
No, she knows every one of our ministers and parsecs. She knows them. She knows us personally. Believe me.
Yeah,
She, she's very hands-on with all of our representatives, and yeah, she knows me personally, and she knows how I am and my style, and she will put you in a place that complements how you are.
Right,
And
right.
that's one of the things we all appreciate about the Prime Minister. As you said, she's a masterful politician. You know,
Yes.
she's a very, very, very astute strategist.
Right, 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 right. Well, now how is this going to work? I mean, coming out of a racially polarized situation that we experienced with the PNM and prior and so forth, and the country is basically, in a sense, is there a plan to cope with that, or is it through your programs a sense of normalcy will come where everybody accepts everybody?
Well, the everybody will accept everybody is for us to take a realistic look of where we are. And that's what Trinidad has avoided for decades.
Yeah.
You know, we are a racially polarized society, especially when it comes to election time.
Yes, yes.
You know, maybe not so much when we party, as
Yeah.
David Rudder said, how we vote is not how we party.
Right,
You know,
right, right, right.
so you know, we all have to have that in mind, bear that in mind. We have to have a strict code of integrity and morality when we deal with these things,
Yeah.
and to make sure that no one is left behind. And although this may be political, I am a politician. I think the PNM has been the prime, I would say, exponent of racial politics, because the people they pretend to represent, they've never represented. Our
Right.
worst performing communities are the people that
The
the
African
PNM
folk.
pretended to represent over for 60 years.
Yeah.
Our African brothers and sisters in the PNM constituencies are among the worst served in terms of all social indices, in
Right.
terms of health, in terms
Yeah.
of employment, in terms of upward mobility, in terms of actual generational wealth. I think the PNM has represented the 1% and their financiers and friends. And I think they have done a disservice to our people, especially on the East-West corridor.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's up to us as a government to fix all those things and to represent all the people. And I think Kamla Prasad Bisesa as Prime Minister will do exactly that.
Right. Right. Well, it's great to see that she's using sport to help in the development of the youth in the country. And I'm glad you are right there, and you're certainly helping in stimulating that. Anything you like to leave us with?
Well, I say hello to all my friends out there in Washington, D.C. I tell you, it's a city dear, very dear, close to my heart. You know, I miss it. As a matter of fact, I normally would be in Washington every summer. You know,
Yes.
one of my brothers, one of my closest friends for life, Barry Henderson, still lives there.
Yes.
And you know, I look forward to visiting. So I say hello to all of them who are among your viewers and listeners. And I look forward to being among them very soon, God
Okay.
willing.
All right, man. Thank you very much, David Nakhid. Okay.
Thank you, Ron. Take care.
All right. I've been speaking with David Nakhid. He's the Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Sports in the government of Trinidad and Tobago. This is Von Martin. Caribbeana continues.